Today, we're going to dive into one of the most incredible documents in modern history, the Constitution of India. And look, this is not just some dry, dusty legal book. It's the actual rule book for the largest democracy on earth. It's really the blueprint for a nation's soul. So let's just start with a massive question because it really frames everything we're about to talk about. How do you even begin to write a single rulebook for a brand new country with over 300 million people, a place of mind-boggling diversity that's just shaking off centuries of colonial rule? What a staggering task. To really get a grip on the Constitution, you have to picture the moment it was born into. It was, a time of incredible hope, but also just immense, immense challenges. Okay, so picture this. It's right after World War II. The British Empire is pulling back, and on August 15, 1947, India is born as an independent nation. But this new country was this massive, swirling mix of languages, religions, cultures, you name it. It absolutely, desperately needed some kind of foundational glue to hold it all together. And that's exactly where the Constituent Assembly comes into the picture. This was the group of people given the monumental job of drafting the future of India, of creating its supreme law from scratch. Now, this wasn't something they just threw together overnight. Nope. The process started even before independence, with elections back in '45. The Assembly first met in December 1946, kept working right through independence, and finally, in November 1949, they adopted the Constitution. And it officially went into effect on January 26, 1950, a day that's now celebrated as India's Republic Day. And what's so cool is the thinking behind it. The Assembly, led by the absolute powerhouse Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Instead, they were incredibly smart. They looked at constitutions from all over the world, the US, the UK, Ireland, and they picked and chose the best ideas, skillfully weaving them together to fit India's very specific needs. The real soul of the Constitution, though, its guiding light, came from the Objectives Resolution written by Jawaharlal Nehru. It laid out 3 huge goals. First, keep the country together. Second, build a real working democracy. And third, and this is so important, spark a social revolution to lift up every single citizen. And all of that guiding philosophy, it's perfectly summed up in the Constitution's incredibly powerful opening statement, the Preamble. Think of the Preamble as the heart of the Constitution. It's basically the mission statement. It lays out all the core values and principles of the entire document, and it packs so many powerful ideas into just a few lines. It all kicks off with these electric words, "We, the people of India." And that's a huge deal. This makes it clear that this document wasn't a gift from a king or some foreign power. No, it was a declaration that the ultimate power, the true authority in India, comes from its people. And that opening phrase sets up the 5 absolute pillars of the Indian state. It declares India to be sovereign, which means completely independent, socialist, aiming for economic and social justice, secular, meaning no state religion, democratic, with a government for the people, by the people, and a republic, which means the head of state is elected, not a king or queen. Okay, so that's the big, grand vision. But what does the Constitution actually promise its citizens, on a day-to-day basis? Well, that brings us to the core deal between the state and the people. First up, we've got the fundamental rights. These are basic human rights guaranteed to every single citizen. But here's the real game changer. They are enforceable by law. If the government violates these rights, you can literally take them to court. For a society coming out of a system with so much inequality, this was absolutely revolutionary. And we're talking about a huge range of rights here. You've got the right to equality, the right to freedom, like speech and expression, the right against exploitation, freedom of religion. It's a long list. But the last one, the right to constitutional remedies, well, that's like the master key. It's the right that lets you go to court to make sure all your other rights are protected. But the writers knew that just having rights wasn't the whole story. They also laid out a roadmap for the kind of country India should strive to be. These are the directive principles. You can think of them as a moral compass for the government, a to-do list for creating a just and fair society. So, what's the big difference between rights and principles? It's actually pretty simple. Fundamental rights are justiciable, which is a fancy way of saying you can take the government to court to enforce them. Directive principles are goals, aspirations. They aren't legally binding in the same way. Simply put, rights are what you have, principles are what the country hopes to achieve. And then, to kind of complete the circle, another piece was added in 1976, the fundamental duties. This was seen as the other side of the coin. The idea is, hey, if citizens get all these guaranteed rights, they also have some moral responsibilities to the nation, like promoting harmony and protecting the environment.
All right, so we've got the philosophy and the contract with the citizens. But how does the government itself actually work? This is where we see the Constitution's really unique architecture.
First of all, the sheer size of it is just wild. With 395 articles in its original form, it was, and still is, the longest written constitution on the planet. And that was on purpose. The framers wanted to be super detailed and clear to avoid confusion when governing such a massive, complex country. And packed inside those articles are some truly one-of-a-kind features. For starters, it's a federal system, but with a very strong central government. And get this, unlike the US, there's only a single citizenship for the whole country. It also set up a fiercely independent judiciary to act as a watchdog. Plus, it guaranteed every adult the right to vote right from day one, which was a really bold move back then. And it includes some very powerful emergency provisions that can temporarily centralize power during a national crisis. Now, all of this might sound like it's just ancient history, but what the framers built was something designed to last, to grow, and to stay relevant for generations to come. That's why people often call it a living document. It was never meant to be frozen in time. The founders were smart enough to include a process for amending it, allowing it to adapt as the country changed. For example, in 1989, an amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. It's this flexibility that keeps the Constitution from becoming a historical relic. Which brings us to a final, pretty big question to think about. This Constitution has been India's guide for over 70 years through some incredible, world-changing times. It's a testament to the wisdom of its creators. But as India keeps charging into the 21st century, is this blueprint from the past still the right one for the future? That's a question every generation really has to answer for itself.